Hey people, what's cracking? It's your favorite desert podcaster, Spencer Lane, back with episode number 3. As you can tell, rocking my Angels jersey, so a little giveaway of what we're going to be talking about today. Uh, actually didn't upload yesterday because I went to an Angels game, so as you could tell, got a little bit of something on my shirt or my jersey. It's what I get for loving food as much as I do. Sorry about that. Yeah, I got to see the Angels play yesterday. What was it? I think 4-1 win over the White Sox, maybe 4-1, 4-0. I know our shortstop Rengifico, number 2. He hit a double and a home run. That was cool. Watching Mike Trout's always a spectacle, right? Being the athlete he is. Uh, Got to see Shohei Ohtani on the mound. That was really cool. Uh, and I went to the game with one of my buddies who was a White Sox fan, and get into just the banter back and forth of watching a game with a buddy of yours is always a good time. Yeah, sorry about that, but wanted to get in the mood a little bit of talking about baseball today. Baseball is something that I have sort of a unique relationship with. I was really into it when I was younger. I grew up, it was always my favorite sport. I was always in Little League. I didn't really play basketball or football that much at the time. So baseball was sort of what I invested all of my energy into. And as I got older, once I hit high school, I fell out a little bit with baseball just due to wrestling becoming prevalent in my life and football sort of almost having this resurgence. Um, but yeah, I've always been intrigued with baseball, and lately I've been getting back into it a little bit. Hopefully with you guys next to me, we can all learn and grow together on this, right? So opening day was about late April, so now that we have a general idea of how the season's gone on and different teams are starting to shape up, right? Yankees are out and out the best team in baseball, got 50 plus wins. Good for them. I remember sadly talking about the Angels. I remember everyone was talking about us saying we were starting off really hot, and I remember telling all my buddies, "Don't worry, give it a couple minutes. We'll surely fall back into 500." And I think we lost like eight of 12 games, so we're back to where we should be. But yeah, really, what I wanted to talk more about was sort of the players, right? Well, just the star players. The Cy Young Award given to the best pitcher, and they have one for each division. So one for the AL, one for the NL, right? So I want to talk about that, and I also want to talk about MVP for the AL and NL as well. All right, first let's talk about Cy Young. Now, Cy Young was actually give you a little backstory on this, so you can learn about today while also learning about the past. Cy Young was one of the original pitchers of baseball, one of the early Hall of Famers, one of the early greats. Um, he's notorious in baseball lore because he pitched the first ever perfect game, where 27 batters, right, 9 innings of baseball, 3 outs per inning, 27 outs minimum you have to acquire to complete a whole game. He was the first pitcher in MLB history to go 27 up, 27 down. So that's why the Cy Young Award, known for the best pitcher, is named after him. So a little fun fact about that. And he played for the Yankees, so that's tough, but we pick our battles as a society. Um so yeah, going into the preseason, a lot of what Vegas had, especially we'll start in the AL first because I'm an Angels fan. Angels are in the AL. It's easier anyways. AL's cooler anyways. Have the DH and all that stuff. Good times. Going into the AL, really the clearing out favorite was Garrett Cole. I mean, I know he had a little bit of trouble last year with like the substance stuff really starting to crack down, and then just Yankees didn't have the best overall performance last year, so I could definitely see how he was an early odds on favorite. Had him at plus 450, which was I believe 250 gap between him and the next person on the list, which is actually Shane Bieber of the Guardians. I know he's become a pretty excellent ace out there. Not much the Guardians have to root for, or formerly known as the Cleveland Indians, now the Cleveland Guardians. Um, yeah, I'm not surprised with this one. I think he's a really good closer in terms of he's a really good strikeout specialist. He can really get a lot of strikeouts. Can run that up. With that comes the chance of getting a lot of extra base hits, right? Because if you're aggressive, being aggressive can work both ways. So That's why I like Shane Bieber. The Sean Mania pick, actually, that was the one that threw me off because they have him here as the fifth odds-on favorite to win going, and this was as of March 10th before opening day, right? So they had Mania at plus 1200, which was the fifth odds-on to win the AL Cy Young, and I'm thinking this guy has never produced. Like, I've seen him in the last 3 seasons he was in the top 5 for Cy Young, and in terms of voting has never finished within top 7 once in his entire career. So it blows my mind that they keep giving this guy looks and they keep acknowledging this guy as a great pitcher. Like, yes, but at some point you have to. Going in later, for example, I see here for the AL MVP in preseason, I see Wander Franco for the Rays, one of the biggest young prospects coming out. Right? It's like how is a rookie essentially, how is a rookie the fifth favorite to win, but a guy who's notoriously known for not being able to consistently produce all year? How is this? I don't know. I mean, Vegas, it's made off of losers and not winners, right? So I'm no betting expert. I'm not a fan of betting, but if I were to make any money, if I were to make any bets on this, whether it was now or back then, I wouldn't do it on these. It's too much of a crapshoot, right? No, no, no. Yeah, I'm just not a fan of gambling. Anyways, speaking of NL, it's pretty clear cut who's always going to be sort of the NL Cy Young favorite out there. It's Jacob DeGrom, right? I mean, this guy's pumping 100 with ease. He's injury prone, and that's the only tough part. But whenever he plays, whenever he pitches, he's the best, arguably the best pitcher in baseball. So all we're waiting for is that 1 year where he could just put it together for a long stint, and he'll have the Cy Young with no doubt. One thing I was surprised by was that it goes from Jacob DeGrom at plus 400, right after it goes plus 800. So there's double, right? Double, which is crazy to think that Garrett Cole to Shane Bieber, which I think is a bigger gap than Jacob DeGrom, which, spoiler, to the next 2 through 4, right? Jacob DeGrom at 400, Walker Buehler, Max Scherzer, and Corbin Burns were all at plus 800 for 2, 3, and 4. I think the gap between DeGrom and those three is a lot closer than Garrett Cole and Shane Bieber. So again, like in terms of this gambling stuff, I don't get it. I don't get how they bring these numbers up. I don't get what people look into. Of course, you have like these factors, but I just couldn't explain it, right? I'm just going off of what I've seen and what I've looked up, and man, it's funny to see how they look in preseason because I could tell you as of all they have, I believe one person from the preseason Cy Young predictions is still there as of right now. Yes, still early, a couple of games, but this is where you hit the ground running. This is where you start building your case essentially for the Cy Young or MVP race. So to see that all these star names are not performing this well, it's either they're saving it on some NBA stuff, they're load managing in a way, and they're saving their good stuff for August, September, October, right, postseason, or maybe it's a new guard because a lot of these pitchers, minus a couple of the names that I see here, a bunch of these pitchers are in their mid to lower 20s. So these are guys that are on the rise, newer names, and even the older guys. These are newer names that are coming onto the scene that are people that hopefully can bring a lasting impact. Okay, now let's go into the current Cy Young standings and see how that ranks compared to what it looked like in the preseason. And like I said earlier, of the 10 names I have written for the two top fives for each AL and NL Cy Young preseason odds, only one name stayed, and that's Max Scherzer of the Mets, which is tough and unique because him and DeGrom, ironically, have both been hurt. But to think that even with even with Max Scherzer being hurt, to see him still dominate, right, brings on the last point of DeGrom, injury prone. If he pitches long enough in a season, will he win it? Maybe his buddy will win it. But let's start with the AL again. And starting at number one, who a lot of people have right now, is just the early odds-on favorite. Part of it's due to his numbers. A good part of it's due to his numbers, right? Obviously. But another part of it is just his age and almost like this resurgence. How about Justin Verlander, right? Talk about a throwback. Playing for the Houston Astros now. He's got 15 starts. He's 10-3 record. And just so people are curious, for a start in baseball, you as a starting pitcher won't get a credit for a win or the loss unless you have what's called a quality start. Now, a quality start for a starting pitcher is, I believe, 5 innings. So you have to complete 5 innings of pitching from the first out, right, to whatever the last out is, to get the quality start. If you don't get that quality start, there's a chance that you don't get credit for the win, even if your team wins. It's a little bit intricate. I can explain it more later on in further episodes when we talk about baseball again. But that's a general gist of how win-loss records work. You have to start enough innings to say, okay, he took majority credit for the win, because that's why you'll see a bunch of relievers have a margin of wins or losses, because they pitched only 2 or 3 innings, but they deem those the most important innings, to where, okay, you clean that up, good work, right? So, yes, enough of that rambling. But yeah, Justin Verlander, he's got a 10-3 record, with on 15 starts. He's pitched 97 and a third innings, with an ERA of 2.03, which is fantastic. Anything that's under 3 in today's baseball, you're generally in a good idea. So now that you're starting to see now that you see Justin Verlander almost under 2, that's fantastic. That's limiting the amount of bad games that you have, so to speak, right? With over 90 strikeouts, I mean, this guy is he's definitely not punching people out as much as he used to punch out strikeouts. He's definitely not getting strikeouts at the same rate as he used to, maybe in like his early Houston years or his Detroit years. Um, but he's definitely performing at an early Cy Young level right now. So shout out to Justin Verlander, one of my favorite pitchers in baseball. Always good to see him perform. Another person I want to bring up though is Neston Cortez for the Yankees. Now I've always seen this guy pitch, and he always just had like this goofy presence to him. Like he seems like a true baseball player, where like baseball players have always had that stigma that they look like they don't play any other sport but baseball, right? You have some of those Jabba Chamberlains, Prince Fielder, built gentlemen in baseball who look like if they didn't know how to play the game of baseball, they would never be an athlete for any such sort, right? So the fact that this guy is balling, and the fact that he's in New York doing it with the approach that he has, I do have some unique appeal to it. It is very eye appealing to watch. I saw this actual Instagram post not too long ago where it showed Neston Cortez pitching a fastball, right? Pitched a 94 mile an hour, pitched two 94 mile per hour fastballs. But the video is him delivering it in different ways. So it's cool to see how how in sports, like, repetition is always one of those big practices that you hear. To see a guy like this with this unique approach of the repetition's going to be it's 94 and it's a fastball. How the ball comes and how it's going to look coming out of my hand, that's where it, like, to me, I think that it's a great step for baseball being this old timer sport, to see guys like him, in my opinion, changing the little things of baseball, being like it's not redundant. You're not watching the same thing over and over again like you do in sports, right? Like that's the unique thing about Curry and shooting the three, is that it changed how we watch basketball. Instead of seeing the ball get dribbled down from court to court, at any point you could see the guy stop and pull up, right? To see a pitcher not uniformly throw the same ball over and over again, to change his windup, more over the top, side, 3/4, then back over the top, another over the top, right? To see that change and sort of that wrinkle be added into the game, it's cool to see, and it's fun to see people who are doing that are having success with it as well. They're not just doing it and they're these little sideshows, right? Like that was always my thing with the former guy named Johnny Cueto, because he always had this like thing to him. Whenever he would pitch, he'd always have like this shoulder wiggle, and sometimes he'd do a fast pitch, right, and he'd flip it out, and then sometimes he'd go, wiggle, go. Sometimes he'd go, hold his leg up, turn it over. Like, he was one of the first people I saw do it, but he was never, for lack of better words, he was never good enough to where people are like, okay, maybe that unique element can work. It was always more of like a sideshow of like, oh, you get Johnny Cueto, you know you're gonna get 4 good games and a bunch of spectacle events where he might give up a home run, but he's gonna look cool while doing it, right? Or he's gonna look unique while doing it. So, yeah, to see a guy like Neston Cortez, do well like this. I mean, he's got the 14 starts. He's got a 6-3 record, 2.51 ERA, which ERA is earned runs allowed. So that's the amount of runs you give up per 9 innings on average. So, yeah, 2.51 ERA. A little bit under on the innings pitch, just because I'm pretty sure that the Yankees bullpen they utilize the Yankees bullpen a bit more out there in New York than they do in Houston. But yeah, still, 85 strikeouts, got a 6-3 record with a 2.51 ERA. He's not one of these. He's not a dominant pitcher, right? He's not like a Randy Johnson or a Pedro Martinez, but he's an innings eater, and elite innings eaters who are also have that unique presence to them. That's a good storyline, and as if any of you watch the NBA enough, a good storyline will always win you the MVP, along with a good performance. So yeah, I think Justin Verlander, Neston Cortez, and another guy I wanted to bring up was Shane McClanahan for the Tampa Bay Rays. Now, statistically speaking, out of the top 5 people here, my personal favorite from the 5 names here, we have Kevin Gossman from Toronto, Justin Verlander from the Astros, Neston Cortez from the Yankees, Dylan Cease from the White Sox, and Shane McClanahan from the Rays. Out of those 5 names, my 2 favorites, my personal favorite to win is Justin Verlander. I honestly want him to win. Like him as a pitcher. I think it'd be cool to see him win a Cy Young this late in his career. Statistically speaking, as of right now, my money's on Shane McClanahan. He's got the 15 games played, right? He's got 91 and a third innings, which is only 6 under Justin Verlander, so that's 1 game's worth. So an average of an inning here and an inning there in their starts, right? The difference between maybe 6 innings and 7 innings pitched, right? So it'll add up over time, but this early on, not that big of a difference. Maybe 1 start. But get this, 1.77 ERA. So he's under a 2, right? Justin Verlander's at a 2.03. This kid's at a 1.77. So almost 25 points better. I believe actually it's 25 points. It is. So 25 points better with an 8-3 record and 123 strikeouts. So he's got almost a quarter of a point better of an ERA. He's got 2 less losses. He's got 2 less wins, but on the trade-off of having 33 more strikeouts. I mean, statistically, this guy's running away with it right now, in my opinion. And Justin Verlander's his biggest competition, just because of the name and what he can bring. And if he actually does start performing, those numbers will follow suit as well. So yeah, I got Justin Verlander and Shane McClanahan out of those 5 as my 2 big heavyweights to carry through this Cy Young voting. As of right now, of course. So we'll see what happens in the coming months. But that's what I got for the AL. In terms of the NL, it's definitely got a little bit more uniqueness to it. Right now, the guy who is, in my opinion, odds-on favorite to win the NL Cy Young is Corbin Burns here from Milwaukee. One of the few, one of the originals from the preseason Cy Young betting odds. Corbin Burns has been doing pretty well. Got the 15 games. He's got 93 innings. He's got a 2.41 ERA, so that's pretty good. But he's got 119 strikeouts. So 2.41 ERA, and you're striking the ball out a lot like that. Because you know those aggressive pitchers. Kind of like in football. A quarterback like Patrick Mahomes will always have a better chance head up. Just one season versus one season. Will have a better chance to beat someone due to his aggression and his ability to not worry about messing up, taking shots downfield, compared to maybe someone like an Alex Smith who is more of a let me make the right play, let me make the best play. Where if you're aggressive and it works, it benefits you in any MVP case, baseball, basketball, football, regardless, right? So to have 119 strikeouts and have only a 2.41 ERA with 93 innings, I mean that's phenomenal numbers right there. That's good stuff right there. You can't it's hard to compete with that, honestly. And I mean, you have a couple guys that are up there. I mean, the other guy that would probably look at all these of all these competitors, I would probably look at and say, okay, he has a chance of competing with him. I'd probably have to say would probably have to be man, I'd probably have to give it to Miles Michaelis here for the Cardinals. He's got 15 games. He's got 94 innings pitched, so he's got more, just a little bit more than him. So definitely has some game behind him. A little bit of a higher ERA. His record's worse, and he has nowhere near as many strikeouts. Only 78 strikeouts for Michaelis compared to Corbin Burns. So Corbin Burns is kind of leading that race, clear and clear right now. The only caveat I will say to that is that Max Scherzer is number 5 in this race, and he only has 8 starts. So if he did good, if he's doing that good with only half the amount of playing time, he might be the one legitimate competitor that could be Corbin Burns. That could be Corbin Burns' trouble at this point because it's his race to lose, right? In terms of like horse racing, he's in the front unless he cramps up or he decides to stop trying. It's his to lose at this rate. So yeah, I got Corbin Burns and maybe Max Scherzer with a backdoor chance of being able to win NL Cy Young as of right now. All right, now let's talk about the actual fun side of baseball, and that's the hitting. Obviously, I say that jokingly, of course, because I personally like pitching more than hitting. I was never a good hitter growing up, so that could be part of why. But yeah. Anyways, let's get into it. So starting with the AL again, let's do the preseason favorites for the MVP voting for the AL. The top three are actually pretty neck and neck. It goes Shohei Ohtani at plus 300 for the Angels. Then you have Mike Trout plus 350 for the Angels. Then you have Vladimir Guerrero Jr., which shout out to Vladimir Guerrero Sr., the original number 27 for the Angels and my favorite baseball player of all time. Um, Vladdy Jr. is plus 400 for the Blue Jays at number 3. So the top 3 for the AL was kind of neck and neck going into the voting, which is unique but also makes sense. I mean, Shohei, right, unanimous MVP, um, had a all-time special season last year. You know, he's always going to be in contention for getting it again. Mike Trout, personal take, best player in baseball of all time. Can't really argue the stats that he has with 10 years of straight consistency as being an over 300 batter. If people want to knock his playoff performance, it's a team sport. It's not golf. It's not wrestling. I'm not going to blame one man on a 26-person job. But yeah, Mike Trout always going to be in their contention for MVP, so not surprised to see him at number 2. I guess Vladimir Guerrero Jr. you could say is a little bit of a surprise, but I mean the hype around his dad being the great hitter that he was, and the hype around this kid. I mean, oh my God, he can hit the height off the ball. I mean, I knew his dad. I mean, his dad to me was infamous for being able to golf swing a double. I mean, his kid's just turning on anything and everything that he sees. It's awesome and it's scary after a while. Like if he develops the true hitting acumen that his dad had with the power that he can bring, I I mean this is we have a special player on our hands if we can hold this consistently, right? And then it's funny to see the gap from number 3 to number 4, right? So plus 400 Vladimir Guerrero Jr. at number 3. Number 4 is Aaron Judge for the New York Yankees at plus 1500. That's crazy to think about. And I want you to think about that. Aaron Judge at plus 1500, number 4, right? Number 5, the rookie sensation Wander Franco, been dubbed as like one of the hottest prospects coming out of baseball. Like him and Vladdy were like the two big stars to come out of the minor league system, and I'm not. I mean, to a certain degree, I am surprised, but I mean, also, I remember when Saquon Barkley got drafted, he was ranked, I think, like a top 5 or top 6 fantasy football running back without ever touching the field. So it's just people do that. If you're young and you have a lot of popularity generated behind you, that'll come with both social media and that'll come with Vegas apparently. So yeah, shocked but not. Now if we look at the NL, I guess it's a little bit more straightforward. Again, still a fairly big jump from 2 to 3, but yeah. So number 1, you have Juan Soto, who he is it's funny. I remember when the Nationals won the World Series, fresh off of Bryce Harper leaving the team. Funniest story ever in sports history to have your star player leave the team and then that team goes and wins their respective world title. Uh, Gotta love it. But for the Nationals, it's like ever since then, I haven't heard much about them. Like Victor Robles, I haven't heard much about of since the ring. Trey Turner left. Um, what is They had Mad Max was on the team. He left. I know Steven Strasburg was doing well. I know he's like injury prone, but the 1 year that he fully was healthy, they won. So I don't. I mean, it's unique to see Juan Soto here, but I'm surprised that he still gets the adoration. I guess maybe it's just Washington dropped off and it's not him. Maybe like a Mike Trout sort of complexion, but I don't know. I'll have to see more into that and see what happens. Number 2 is Fernando Tatis. Um, I think this one is sheerly due to the hype. Because I'll be honest, I personally don't see it. I think he's not that good of a fielder. I think he's injury prone for as good of a hitter he is. I think Carlos Correa is cool, but I also don't think he's that great, and I don't think he's that much different than Carlos Correa. Fernando Tatis. I don't think Fernando Tatis and Carlos Correa are that different. Um, so yeah, a little bit of a surprise to me there, but hey, popularity is a bitch, ain't it? Number 3, and who I personally think should have been the odds-on favorite going in, is Ronald Acuna Jr. for the Braves. I mean, the star of that team. I mean, he wasn't someone who carried the Braves to the ring essentially, but he definitely played his good part. And during the 162 games of a regular season last year, he was their best player. So overall, in terms of star quality, that is the star guy on their team, and I'm surprised he's not ranked higher. He's plus 900 compared to Juan Soto and Fernando Tatis at plus 350. So a 450 jump for Ronald Acuna, I don't know. I don't agree with that. I don't. But again, I'm not a better, so no wonder why these numbers don't make sense to me. And then rounding off number 4 and number 5 is obviously two people that you could expect: Bryce Harper at plus 1,000 for the Phillies and Mookie Betts at plus 1,000 for the Dodgers. Um, Look, Bryce Harper's the most overrated player in baseball, but everyone loves home runs, and if you hit 50 of them and you look cool while you're doing it, people are going to like you. Bryce Harper, right? Copy and paste. Mookie Betts, I'll go on record. I hate the Dodgers. I think they suck. I think that blue is ugly. I think that their fans are overrated. I think that they're annoying. They don't know much about the game itself. They just know that their owner's Magic Johnson, and they usually have enough money to buy the best players in baseball, but can only manage to get one ring out of it. Great production. Um, but Mookie Betts is probably the one person on that team that I don't hate or don't despise. Good dude. Playing the outfield, play second base. Great athlete, good hitter. It's just kind of a great 5-tool player. Some Dodger fans think he's the best in baseball. Again, that's where that Dodger hate comes in because it's insanity. Because Mookie Betts is good, but he's just not Mike. So, yeah, but Mookie Betts round out the top 5. I could definitely see that. Interesting choice. But now let's go to the current rankings and see how they all pan out now. Um, so remember that plus 1,500 for the AL I was talking about? That 6'7" outfielder in New York. Yeah, he is right now killing it in the MVP race and in baseball, just in general. Aaron Judge batting 293 with a 638 slugging. And for people that don't know, slugging means the amount of how many bases you average per at bat. So batting average is how many hits you get, right? So a hit is a single, double, triple, or home run. Doesn't matter. They're all considered a hit. Slugging takes into consideration how many bases you touched. So if you hit a home run, your slugging is 4.0 because you touched 4 bases in one at bat. Where let's say you hit a home run and then you strike out, your slugging goes to a 2.0 because you average 4 bases and no bases. That's 2 right in the middle, right? And then that's where the math comes in. So usually you don't get on first a lot. So that's why it's under 1.0. 1.0 being you average 1 base per at bat. So slugging at 638, which is great, over 50% chance of getting on base, which is nice. 28 home runs, 57 RBIs. Those are great numbers, especially this early in the season. Um, yeah, just slugging it right now. Star player for the Yankees. It's either him or Giancarlo Stanton that usually gets the credit for these guys. Both the superstar hitters, and we'll be honest, with Giancarlo coming from Miami, he'll never get the love of New York that Aaron will. Curry, Kevin, does that sound familiar? But yeah, number 2, Yordan Alvarez, and honestly, I feel like this guy might be number 1 if it wasn't for the fact that he's a designated hitter, because that's his only knock against him is that he doesn't play in the field, which is good enough for him that he plays for the Houston Astros. Batting 312, slugging at 649, 22 home runs, 54 RBIs. So overall, putting the ball in play more than Aaron Judge, but just not as much long ball production, which is always the unique trade-off, right, of what's more valuable, the single or the home run. The home run is, but if I get 2 people to single before, a 3-run home run is a lot more likely to happen than 3 back-to-back-to-back home runs. So, yeah, Yordan Alvarez at number 2. Don't like Houston. They suck. Go Angels. Number 3, Jose Ramirez. I feel bad for Jose Ramirez. Back when they were the Cleveland Indians and they had Mike Clevenger, they had Corey Kluber, Trevor Bauer, Jose Ramirez. Who is it? They had another guy. They had another guy in their infield, and and that was a really good team. And now everyone left, and it's just him. It's kind of a sad sight to see. But I mean, he's still holding it down out there, batting 300, slugging 613. Only got 16 home runs, but he's got 63 RBIs. That leads the American League. So he's not the home run production, but for that team, he doesn't need to be hitting home runs. He just needs to be getting runs across the plate. And sometimes a single and a double is all you're looking for. So 63 RBIs definitely not something to sleep on. After that, I mean, you have Mike Trout and Rafael Devers. Mike Trout for the Angels, Rafael Devers for the Red Sox. Those are number 4 and 5 in the AL MVP race. I'm not going to really bring up their stats because they both are respectable, obviously, but I don't think, at least based on what I'm seeing here, that they're in the biggest contention. It's sort of those 3. Um, Jose Ramirez, if he could just get good RBI production, has a legit chance. Yordan Alvarez can probably win the all-around award if he stays over 300 with 22 home runs, right, and uh, and good RBI production. And then Aaron Judge, if he could just slug it out the gym, 28 home runs. If he can keep that pace going, he'll for sure win MVP at that rate. But yeah, let's get to the NL. And the NL, I'll be honest, I'll list the top 2. I'll tell you right now. Number 5, Freddie Freeman for the Dodgers. He's doing all right. He's batting 306, which is sort of why he's in the contention. But other than that, nothing special. Under 500 slugging, under 10 home runs, under 50 RBIs. And the guy above him, at number 4, Dansby Swanson for the Braves. He's not doing too much better. I mean, he's doing good, obviously, but he's not anything much more special than Freddie Freeman. 299, batting under 500, under 500 slugging, under 10 home runs, under 50 RBIs. I guess at number 3 is where you can see where it gets a little interesting, and that's Manny Machado for the Padres. I mean, he's batting 328, which is exceptional. That's actually really good. But his only argument is that he's barely over 500 in slugging, only 12 home runs and only 46 RBIs. So he's putting the ball in play, which is really good. The only problem is that number one, which I'll get to in a second, is so far ahead that it's gonna have to take one of these guys to make an elevated step for this MVP race to get interesting. Or maybe our number two, Pete Alonso for the Mets, could just join the home run race again and be like, oh, right, this guy can hit bombs. We should vote for him. Batting 282, slugging only 564, which is it's good, but obviously compared to the AL guys, you see what the elite standard is. It's a little bit under, you could say, for elite territory. Slugging 564, 22 home runs, 69 RBIs. So that is his thing. He's got 22 home runs, which is good, but the 69 RBIs, I believe that's good for best in baseball, and that's killer production this early into the season. Almost 70 RBIs. I don't believe we've had 70 games yet. So to see that level of production is quite astounding. Um, and then number one, who as of right now is the through and through runaway for MVP. And it's only a runaway like this because Bryce Harper got hurt. Bryce Harper was in contention, but due to him getting hurt, he fell off the race. And now Paul Goldschmidt for the St. Louis Cardinals. Just hear these numbers, right? In fact, let me look this up for you because I forgot to look this up earlier, but I'll tell you this right now, just so we give a little backstory. This is podcast information. This is great podcast information right here. Paul Goldschmidt, 34 years old, right? 34. Definitely one of the older players on this list, right? Batting 347, slugging 639, 19 home runs, 65 RBIs. That man's playing like prime Mike Trout right now. Batting 347? That's insanity. He is almost halfway to batting 400. If you bat 300 in MLB, batting 250 is average. If you get a hit every 4 at bats, that's fairly good. If you can get 3 hits every 10 at bats, batting 300.300, that's borderline all-star territory. 347? I just there's not. I batted 347 as a 9-year-old in Little League Baseball. Right? And this is going up against 11, 10, 12-year-olds. This is a 34-year-old man going up against other professional guys who do this for a living. 401ks, children, tuition, all that, mortgages, bills, all that stuff. Batting 347. I don't know if I've ever heard a batting average be that high in my life. And I've seen dudes make their debut. Go to right, and if you make your debut, you start out at 0. You go 2 for 4, you're batting 500. I have never seen that. I've never seen a batting average that high before. That's insane. At this point, Paul Goldschmidt would have to hurt himself to lose this MVP race in the NL. It's a runaway. It's actually quite funny how much of a runaway it is. Right. Now that I've done the AL and NL Cy Young along with the AL and NL MVP stuff, I'd like to call it a day. I actually have a midterm that I have to take for my intro to public speaking class, so I will have to end this video off, or I'd have to end this pocket video. I'd have to end this podcast off here today. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and if we could start leaving some of these subscriber comments at the bottom, I'd like to start getting some of these questions in at the end. Y'all are cool people, and I think that if we can interact together, we can make this a pretty cool podcast. See if we can get some feedback in. Positive feedback, constructive criticism. Even if you guys have a question you want to ask me about my life or anything I have in my mind, I'm an open book. Yeah, until then, stay good.